Lots to catch up on the world of sports.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Taco Comfort Solutions.
You know, we purposely didn't put in anything on Stormy Daniels for tonight, only because, you know, we're kind of sports focused. But I'm thinking, why didn't we? We got Gresh here, for God's sake. So obviously we're going to start with that, even though I don't have, you know, that's all tomorrow. We've got analysis on the Bolton NSA appointment, Stormy Daniels, the serious stuff that goes on with the marching over the weekend in so many cities where the young people have kind of made their claim and put their stake in the ground on gun safety issues and school safety issues and the like. But the original intent here was to kind of wrap up where we are as we head toward a Final Four. There's Celtic stuff going on. The Patriots are flushing in and flushing out. We got the Red Sox getting ready for their opener in will be a bone-chilling Fenway next week. So let's just get to it. Nice to have you, and thanks for joining me on this Monday evening. Headline, of course, this was the news last week, and actually it's kind of interesting. I'm wondering when this is going to become yesterday's news. Here's Dan Hurley at UConn. Oh my gosh.
You know, basketball, capital of college basketball, and you know, just it reinforced the decision I made. This is you know, this amazing. It's a wow moment in my career.
You talked about like the bittersweetness yesterday. Now that this is done and you're the new UConn coach, pure excitement.
Yeah, I mean, pure excitement. I mean, look around at this place, and you know, the tradition, the banners. Having played in the Big East, you know, playing in the Big East, I know what this place is all about.
Now, the original headline was Thor Bjorn, the athletic director, that Gresh is obviously very familiar with, and he's been a longtime friend of mine. Full disclosure, I am on the URI payroll when it comes to public address there at the ball games. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. I love how Dan Hurley just looks off into space when talking to people. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's like he's waiting for Tom Werner to wave at him, the way that Tom Werner waved at Ray Charles up at Fenway.
Yeah. I don't know. It might be the eyesight issue. I don't really know.
I don't know. The lights.
Know.
I know Karakis is like 6'3", so that thing might have been.
He's not
like
one of those guys. You know, I always have a little bit of distrust for people who can't look you in the eye when they speak to you. But he's not like that.
No.
In a group, he's like that.
Yeah.
One-on-one, he's and Dan has expressed his interest, desire to come here and have at least one more interview, conversation regarding his tenure at URI. I'm hoping that happens this week or next. I'm guessing. The transition to UConn is going to get pretty heady for him pretty quickly.
You would think so. They have internal stuff they have to deal with before he can really move on to do his job.
At UConn.
At UConn.
Right.
I mean, they've got to figure out what they're doing with Kevin Ollie. That's going to affect their resources. And then he's got to get on whatever recruiting class, however he's going to go about recruiting UConn. I think it'll be different than the way he recruited URI.
So Kevin Ollie, remember, being a non-sports, is the former standout All-American that played at UConn, who came back to coach the team and who's run into some turbulence, and they've got litigation going on. So it's a little bit of a mess over there, right? I mean,
they're trying to fire Ollie for just cause so they don't have to pay him the $10 million remaining, saying that he knew what was going on within this latest investigation into the athletic department. And of course, with this
is it part of the federal probe?
No, it's the NCAA probe, and that's what I was going to get to. Is that, you know, I'm sure the feds will maybe look as well. I mean, the reason that the feds ended up getting involved in this college basketball deal was because they were trying to really take down the shoe companies, and they found one snake who was the go-between between some coaches and shoe companies, and this guy was like, well, you want to see how it really works? Then it's mushroomed into what it's mushroomed into.
We had Bill Reynolds here last week talking about the shoe companies and the whole mess that could be college basketball here. How deep? We'll get back to Hurley in a second. But how deep do you think this thing could go?
Well, I think it will stop with the shoe companies and the people they've already busted, because now the rats are all scurrying from the ship. People are getting their stories straight. And if there isn't the hard evidence, I don't think they can really pinch that many more coaches. But what it might do is actually lead the NCAA to doing something, which, God forbid they do that, and actually look into some of this stuff and see if there were hard and fast NCAA rules that were really violated that they need to stand up and say, we're not going to take this anymore. The problem is the NCAA takes their check for the NCAA tournament. They look at it and go, yeah, well, all that stuff really doesn't matter to us. Let the feds go handle it.
Yeah, it's a break for the NCAA.
Yeah, the NCAA. Yeah, the NCAA is nothing more than a money-sucking, lying, fraudulent organization, and you would have coaches that have said that on the record as well, more than just Jim Boeheim, who hates the Sun.
You know, this is an opinion show, and opinions offered here are that of the guests and not necessarily the host, the company, the United States of America, or the Soviet Union.
If you don't think the NCAA stinks, then you're a communist.
By the way.
There you go.
You feel strongly about the NCAA.
Well, because they take their check, and then it's...
you mean from the television rights?
Well,
and all
yeah,
that?
and they do things like this. If a kid can go to the NBA, that's holding the Powerball ticket. So the kid goes and jumps for $25 million after 1 or 2 years. And then the kid doesn't graduate, and then they bust the coach's chops about that kid not graduating and hurting their graduation rate. Like, they don't operate in the 2000s. They operate in the early 1900s, Pollyanna, and the way it should be. I feel like some of the people who've sat here would be all for the NCAA because it's the way it used to be. It was a ripping good yarn.
That's that APR thing you're talking about?
Well, yeah, there's that. There's the way they calculate.
APR is the calculation on how you're doing academically.
Right, which I stunk academically. I brought every APR down, but I at least have an idea about it.
I am shocked over that.
And it's just, the way the coaches can move and the players can't. If a kid wants to transfer because his coach is leaving, then the school can put restrictions on where he can go. If it's what's best for the kid, and that's what it's about. The NCAA and all their institutions tell us it's about the kids. And then they do everything they can to not give them their piece of the pie, even if it's a tiny little piece, not give them extra benefits, and not give them the ability to move freely whenever they want to transfer, and they have to sit out a year. Come on, what are we doing?
You don't want to pay these student athletes, do you?
Yeah, but I want the ones who are bringing in the gate, or if they're selling a lot of merchandise, then they have the ability to get a little piece of it. There's no way, there's no reason why we can't come up with, say, autograph signings where welcome in the sycophants, and people pay their $25 or whatever, and they get to meet the Rams or meet the whatevers, and they get their stuff signed and they get their pictures taken, and then the kids get a little slice of that at the end of the day. It would be like an appearance for anybody else in any other public walk of life. You mean to tell me they can't come up with some sort of structure to allow that to happen?
Well, listen, I think stipends for survival. The thing that breaks my heart with college athletes is when you get a kid who comes cross country and comes from a poor background, and their parents can't even come see them play.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that breaks me, and I want to see those rules relaxed so that there's at least travel stipends or family support of some kind that makes the connectivity for the student athlete a little bit better. But let's not forget, I hate to bring an old argument to the table, but the value of a college education right now is anywhere from $100,000 to $250,000, and that is not chopped liver.
No, it isn't. But of how many students go to URI? What, between
12,000.
Okay. How many of those 12,000 have the ability to put 8,000 other people in the seat they pay a ticket for? That's why they get that nicety. Like when if you want to do the value of the scholarship versus the money that comes into the program, then I'd love to have that discussion because people bring that up all the time. But, with all due respect, there are a lot of kids down there that are getting scholarships, and I was one of them because football stunk, and the biggest crowd we had was about 8,000 when we beat Connecticut on homecoming in the rain. There are lots of kids down there getting scholarships where it's not paying the university back. And, it's like, okay, we mention the scholarships all the time, but there's a hierarchy even within that. There are kids that are bringing money into the school, and then there are kids that are there to play a sport and get their education and be a part of that athletic program, not a part of its economic engine.
All right, when we come back, we'll get back to the actual discussion on Coach Hurley. There's some turbulence with the Celtics injury-wise. Patriots are throwing players back and forth all over the place. Lots to do.
In all honesty, I think they got more aggressive offensively. And when when you're aggressive offensively, you get defensive energy. And then they had a couple of big-time blocks, and we had some missed shots. So I think they got energy off their offense, and most of the time you get energy off your defense. They had a couple of energy dunks, a couple of threes on 50-50 balls. Today it just wasn't meant to be. It wasn't meant to be, and hopefully we can position ourselves to move forward next year if we're fortunate.
And there he is, year after year, though. He's put the PC Friars in a spot. And by the way, speaking of the PC Friars, something that we got to do, we got to get Nate Lehman in here, the head coach of the PC Friars hockey team. They went to within 27 seconds and 1 goal of the Frozen Four this past weekend. And they've been performing at a high level, and we don't pay a lot of attention to them. It's amazing.
And they lost to Notre Dame, which is just like drinking poison.
Yeah, I'm sure that. So they're fantastic, and we got to get them in here someday soon. But it's kind of funny watching Cooley. He's steady as he goes. No rumors surrounding him. Program performs at a, I think, higher level than the original expectations at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And so getting to the show and not getting it done. I think he's continuing to do everything that he's been asked to do there.
And my expectations for him are, if you're in a tournament 3 out of 4 years, you're good. I mean, the NIT is still okay. You want the NCAA tournament. Right. He's done it 5 in a row. But I think we know that in a program like PC and some of those in the Big East, there might be that, well, we had a big injury, we only made the NIT, and then back to the NCAA tournament. Oh, people haven't gotten so spoiled with Ed Cooley that they think that that's some sort of failure. It used to be a time where it would be begged to go to any of the postseason tournaments.
So Hurley leaving is a phenom. What was your gut take on the whole thing?
Well, I thought he was going to go because there was going to be more money, more resources. And if you look at the college basketball blue bloods in the NCAA tournament this year, and look why Rhodey lost to Duke, and even Oklahoma, the size was a big issue for Rhode Island. I think at Rhode Island you can maybe get one big guy once in a while, but those big skilled guys are going to go to the UConns and the Dukes and the Kansases of the world. So I think it allows Hurley to recruit another kind of player to even push him further. In a lot of ways, it was a no-brainer. He's 45 years old. He didn't make first-round money the way Bobby Hurley did. This is his Powerball contract.
Yeah. I think he's legitimately, not this week, but last week, broken up over
I think so. That's, we joked about the way he looks around. Some of that's nervousness, too, because I do think there is a part of him that really tugs to pull him back this way, but he did what he had to do. It was, he's got a chance to make $20 million in 6 years. He ain't doing that here.
So what is, just curious on your take on what URI does now. They're in a really interesting spot. Did you see that front page sports section syndicated piece on Pitino? Rick Pitino, the Knicks, Celtic, PC, Kentucky, Louisville, legacy Hall of Famer who gets jammed up in an investigation there at Louisville, but who's open about missing coaching so desperately.
No.
I'm just wondering whether you were going to be out there. No, you're going to be out there on this one.
I don't want that guy. Here's the thing.
That's the Herrick hire, right?
Rhode Island has to be a school that looks for the next, not the last. Rick Pitino was the last guy to get thrown out of his job for cheating or issues or whatever. I'm thinking more
Swears to God he didn't do it. Swears to God.
Right. And I'm thinking more of a Nate Oates type at Buffalo. Somebody who is on the rise. Look, the best coaches who have done the best job here. Now, again, it got a little murky with Herrick and DiGregorio because of the Lamar intrusion. But, I don't want Jim Barron again. I don't want good and we're building a program and all that Harry High School horse crap that he used to roll out there. Go get me somebody that's going to say, this is what Hurley built and this is where I want to take it to. Not, I'm going to be bigger than the job, because that's what Rick Pitino would be, bigger than the job.
Yeah.
And he'd remind us all the time.
Is it fertile out there, the choices?
Right now, no, but I think it's a year-to-year thing. You've had some movement a little bit. Like when Louisville came open, the Xavier coach may end up going there. Then who's going to go to Xavier might end up moving around those just below URI A10 level jobs. But this year there weren't a ton of coaches that were blown out. And the one who was at a big school, Kevin Stallings, is so bad that whomever walks into that job at Pitt needs 7 years to get it right.
How does that happen?
Because I'll tell you exactly how it happened. The AD worked for one of those search firm companies.
We're talking about Pitt now.
We're talking about Pitt
now. How does a big-time college coach throw a goose egg up in conference
Well,
play?
they hired a bad guy. Like Vanderbilt was like, sure, you can have him, and they bring in Stallings, and it's because the AD was connected to a search firm company. They hired the search firm company, and the guy who was in the search firm company used to be the agent for Stallings, so that's how he got the job. I mean, it's all this ridiculous incestuousness in that world. That to me, that's why Rhode Island has to keep finding the next guy. It means every 4 or 5 years the job might turn over, but what they need to get it to, what URI can become is like becoming a New England Patriot in that. Chris Long came here 2 years ago. He played 1 year for cheap money, then he got paid elsewhere with the Philadelphia Eagles. You can come to URI, you can make a good wage, you can build your resume, and then you can go take your job. And eventually, all the young coaches in college basketball will look at it and say, that's a good job to take because I can get to where I want to be. It's okay if you're URI to say that. And if one guy falls in love with it and you have a chance to keep him, then you're good to go. But otherwise, embrace what you are instead of complaining about what you aren't.
Fascinating concept. Any instinct on who, what, where, how? Do they stay in-house?
I don't think they stay in-house. I think they go outside, bring someone in. David Cox gets to go. I think the new guy comes in. He's the assistant to Hurley.
Will he go? Will he go to UConn?
Oh yeah. He'll get a. If he doesn't get the job, he gets a check walking out the door at URI and signs a contract at UConn in about 3 hours later once he drives there.
What do the kids do?
I think the kids are going to hang around. I really do, because something tells me that if those kids reach out to Dan Hurley, unless he wants to poach them, and I don't know if he's going to do that. I don't think to this program he would poach kids that were committed to coming here, considering how there was a real tug for him emotionally. But I think the kids hang around. And then the next coach can recruit the kind of kid that he wants to bring in. That's my gut.
Well, he's hired good kids. I mean, he's recruited good kids.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they'd be the same kind of kids.
Absolutely.
Which is why I think this Buffalo guy might be a lead candidate, in that he comes from a Hurley orientation.
Well, get ready, because I'm sure all the people that would call the Dan Yorke Show, $1 million buyout for a basketball coach? That's the buyout for the coach at Buffalo. It's $1 million buyout.
Well, they're getting
What are 38 studios has crippled us? How can we breathe?
Well, they're getting $1 million, and depending on the payout, $1.25 million to $1.5 million for Hurley to leave.
Well, that could be spread out a little bit too. How about UConn having the option? Knowing them, they'll take it. I mean, they spread out the old football coach and the basketball coach, so they might go on the old installment plan, like layaway.
Yeah, it's just, what a world.
Hey,
what a world.
Hey, Kevin Ollie is fighting over whether he's only going to get a percentage of his $10 million or his whole $10 million. There you go. The football coach over there at UConn got fired. They wrote him a $1.1 million check out the door. He went to Nebraska, the old UConn football coach, signed on a 2-year deal, $850, $875, got fired after year one, walked away with $875,000 for year two to sit on the beach and do nothing. That's good work if you can get it, man.
All right, lots of goings on. The Celtics, Kyrie's kind of hurt. Patriots are throwing players all over the place. Stay with us. All right, what's going on with Kyrie? What happened?
All right, so Kyrie Irving had what the Celtics termed in a unbelievably politically worded press release.
Why is an injury update politically worded?
Oh, because he had only a minimally invasive procedure, and then they would get back to the timetable. Let's put it this way. The Patricia Morgan campaign should read that press release as to how to just middle everything and to spell right as well. But, they
Why are you picking on Patricia for?
Who can't spell Alan Fung? Really? What are we doing here?
She misspelled Alan Fung?
Yeah, in a press release like 6 times. Anyway, So this press release was, the season isn't really over, Celtic fans. However, there's a chance with this minimally invasive procedure we find something where it may lead you to think the season could be over. They were dancing around it. Kyrie had some kind of tension thing in his knee taken out. He's got screws in there. What the hell? I don't know. And he's out 3 to 6 weeks. So he's on the same out pattern as Steph Curry with the Golden State Warriors. And I think what Kyrie wants to do, he had this minimally invasive surgery to get back so that he could try to beat LeBron in the second round of the playoffs. That's the spite and malice factor of Kyrie Irving that we should all embrace and love and root for, because that's what's going to push that guy to a championship.
So you like the procedure? You like the timeout?
I'm glad he didn't shut it down for the whole year, because then everybody would have been like, well, what the hell are we doing here? At least you get him back for the second round and try to beat LeBron. It is fantastic theater. And let's remember, the last time LeBron James left the Cleveland Cavaliers after a playoff loss, it was in Boston, where everyone rained booze down upon him, and it hurt his feelings as he was walking out the door. That's part of the reason why the guy went to Miami.
You know, overall, I really do think that between the NHL and the NBA, those are the two most stressed athletes, kind of athletes that you have in professional sport.
The difference is you can talk to an NHLer and you'd be lucky to get words out of an NBAer. Like the NHL guys, because they grow up around family, like some uncle or mom is taking them to a rink at 5 in the morning.
Oh, you mean about their affability?
Like in terms of their, the way they,
Oh, no, y'all.
But the NHLers deal with their stress very differently than the NBAers do.
Right, the NHLers beat the hell out of each other on the ice and then forget about it and go have a beer. But I'm talking about just the physical stress, the actual 80-plus game series. You know, that's why the NBA is slow for 3 quarters. These guys can't go. And that's why you see such a turn-up in the NHL playoffs between what happens between games 1 and 80 and then bang, right? I'm amazed that these guys get through the seasons that they do. Everyone says, oh, the NFL, the average length is, 4 years max? But I'm sure that because of the physical contact, but the pounding that NBA and NHL athletes have to go through is unbelievable.
Well, that's why Tom Brady's doing what he's doing, because that whole health, wellness, taking care of players is becoming a much bigger cottage industry that the guys who have a lot of money are really investing in.
What's going on with the Pats?
They'll be fine. I mean, I think they're going to draft a tackle. Keep an eye on this kid.
We got a good tackle from the Pats at the Giants. Thank you very much.
Yeah, paid 4 years, $60 million for him.
That's unbelievable.
I think the Patriots are going to draft a starter in the bottom of the first round. There's a kid Croston out of UCLA to keep an eye on, where with the 31st pick, I think he'll get a 5-year deal for about $11 million or something.
What happens with the Sox? What do they do this year?
You know, they'll be in it, obviously. They have better pitching than the Yankees, but the Yankees supposedly are going to smash the hell out of the baseball. No Pedroia for the first couple of weeks. All right, fine. Put Nunez or Holt or whomever in there, and you figure that one out. Jackie Bradley Jr. better hit better than he did in spring training. And, you know, they'll be there in the end. In September, we'll be sitting here doing tickle butt on the Red Sox and the Yankees.
Because we all like to tickle butt. No, or is that Stormy Dan? What'd you say?
She came across credible. So what? I don't care. It's a complete overreaction from the Dems as well. That goes all the way back to the day when Trump won the election. Don't even get me going on that for
Well, if you care about Stormy or any of the things we talk about, Gresh, weeknights 6 to 9 on WPRO. He takes your calls. Final word and we come back. Tomorrow night, Michael Kennedy from Brown University, who might just come here apoplectic about everything from Stormy to Bolton to the walk this weekend in so many cities. He's a serious guy. He'll be serious tomorrow night. See you on the radio at 3 on WPRO. Bye.